When it comes to riding motorbikes, there isn't much that's as enjoyable as going on a group ride. Even after riding for about 7 or 8 months now, one of my fondest memories is about a month after I passed. We got together with about 5 of us and went for quite a long ride, and it was some of the most fun I've had on my bike. But is a fairly big group ride like this really the right environment for a beginner to learn how to ride? Well, as with anything, there's a few pros and cons, so let's explore in a bit more detail. Right off the bat, I think riding with a group of more experienced riders is one of the best things you can do as a beginner. It inspires a lot of confidence knowing that if you have a fall or a crash, you're going to have people around you who can help. It's also likely that these people will know some good routes and places to go, which means that you can take full advantage of your newfound hobby and experience that sense of adventure and freedom that you can only get from riding a motorbike. I feel a lot more confident doing longer journeys when I'm riding with someone instead of just on my own, so I can make full use of my motorbike that way. You'll also likely meet a lot of new people on group rides. Whether it's a large organised ride or just a group of friends getting together, it's likely that someone will invite along one of their friends who you haven't met yet. This way, you expand your circle of friends who ride, making it a lot more fun and a lot easier the next time you want to organise something. One of the best things about motorcycling for me is that unless you ride, you'll never really understand that kind of fun and freedom, so it's great to be able to hang around people who have shared those similar experiences. Riding in a group can also go a long way towards improving your riding. A group can push you out of your comfort zone, such as by introducing you to new roads and taking you on routes that you haven't explored before, and the best way to get better at riding is just by riding, so the more roads and terrain you can experience, the better you'll become. For me, going on some of these longer rides in a group really helped because it's something that I just wouldn't have done that early into my riding journey. If you're not confident with things like filtering, one of the best ways for me to learn was to follow a friend through traffic. You still have to make your own observations and pay attention, but having somebody else there gives you that little boost of confidence that you might need. And if you're in touch via intercom, you can always just ask them, do you think I can make that gap if you're not too sure? And they can give you that reassurance or alert you to something that you haven't noticed yourself. If you just bought your first bike and you don't really know that many bikes yet, it's nice to ride in a group where everybody's got something different, and if they let you, you can sit on it, see what it's like, especially if you're shorter like me. It's nice to just try bikes on for size, and maybe they'll even let you ride it a bit. This is a great way to find out what bike you might want to buy next, or what bikes you definitely don't like. So as you can probably tell, I'm quite in favour of group rides. When I was first learning to ride, one of the best things for me to do was to just go ride with a friend as often as I could. They would help me, show me things and teach me things, and I wouldn't have improved as quickly as I did if I was trying to do all of this on my own. However, there's quite a lot to think about on a group ride for anybody, but especially as a beginner. So let's dig into some of those now. The first thing is peer pressure. A lot of motorbike accidents happen in group ride situations, and it's simply because people pressure other people, intentionally or unintentionally, to ride faster than they normally would, to take more risks than they normally would. So this is something you really have to be aware of as a beginner. It can be very tempting to want to keep up as a beginner, and especially if you're in a 125, you might feel like you have something to prove and you need to ride as fast as you can. This is just something to be aware of. Even the most self-aware people and the people with the best self-control, it's just human nature to want to try and fit in with a group. So if everybody's riding super fast and you're not comfortable riding that fast, it's really difficult to say, hey look, I'm just going to pull over, I'm just going to stop. But it's really something to be aware of as a beginner. People might not appreciate what skill level you're at, and they might push you a little bit too far. This is why a lot of accidents happen on group rides, so it's an environment where you have to be extra careful. You also need to consider who you're going riding with when you're out on a group ride. For me, there's people I love to ride with, and there's people I'd rather not ride with. Ask yourself how your riding friends or how your group would react if you did tell them that you was uncomfortable or you wanted to pull over or you didn't feel confident doing something. Would they ridicule you? Would they try and pressure you to do something you didn't want to do? Or would they be completely okay with that? There's been times where I've been riding with a friend and we've ended up quite far away from where I live, and I've asked them to drop me all the way home because I just didn't feel comfortable making that journey back on my own. If you're riding with someone and they're not willing to do that for you, and they'd rather you make the journey home solo when you're not comfortable doing so, they're probably not the best person you want to be riding with. When I'm riding with people, things like turning around and giving me a thumbs up just to make sure I'm doing okay, those things were really reassuring as a beginner. It really shows how much people care, and that they're actually looking out for you and looking in their mirrors to check that you're still with them. If it's your first few rides and people are shooting off away from you and they're not asking you if you're doing okay and making sure that you're still having fun, it's probably not the best group for you to be riding with. It's no judgment on them, they might just not have considered where you are and your skill level, but there's people who are better to ride with and people who can teach you and coach you. which is one of the best parts about riding in a group. If you're not in touch via a comm system, or even if you are, things like letting people know where the destination is and where the meeting point is, what time people expect to be where, those things are really helpful on a big organised ride, so if you get separated from the group, you can still catch them up at the destination. If you're following people and you have no idea where you're going and you get separated, you don't have much of a choice but just turn around and go home, which is probably going to ruin your day. So, organisation is key. If the group seems like they're super disorganised and they don't really care if everyone makes it to the destination or not, also probably a bad sign. That was all a pretty long-winded way of saying yes, I do think that group rides are a fantastic environment for beginner. You learn a lot and you improve very quickly, but just be aware that there are groups that are better and worse to ride with, and it can be quite a pressurised environment. Bearing that in mind, stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.